Dale is in our London studio. Robbie Dale, good evening.
Good evening, John.
Where will you be living on Tuesday?
On Tuesday I shall be on the ship off the Essex coast.
Now, how will it feel being virtually, as I said, an exile?
It'll feel strange for a start, I should imagine, and when the impact comes along of after being on the boat for a few weeks and then going over to Holland and realizing that I can't come back to England and see my friends, then I suppose it will feel a wee bit strange and a bit uncomfortable, as you might say.
Now, is it going to be worth it? I don't mean this financially. I mean, is it really going to be worth it, this wrench, leaving your family and friends behind?
I think so. I'm quite certain, in fact, that it's going to be worth it, because here's something that's taken a long time to establish, and a relationship with many, many people that's taken me a lot of work and a lot of inconvenience of being out on a ship. And there's a lot of people out there that I know exist, and they've shown their appreciation in so many ways, in letters and in gifts of appreciation, and I think knowing that they'll still be there after the bill is passed, and that they'll still be listening, will give me the same amount of satisfaction that I've gathered so far, that I've gained over the last year and a half.
Now, you're going to be anchored off Felixstowe. In other words, you can still see England's green and pleasant land. But if you want to reach dry land, you have to go, as you said, to Holland. Isn't this going to prove, too much of a strain, really?
Oddly enough, I was thinking about that when I was last on the ship. I thought next time I come out here, I'll be able to look across there to Felixstowe and perhaps in the distance see people on the beach with a pair of binoculars and think, well, that's forbidden territory for you now. And at the same time, I thought about this angle of being away in Holland and not being able to come back. And then you weigh out one against the other, Is it going to be worth it? Will you get the same feeling of communication, not being able to see your listeners, not being able to go ashore and meet them? But
Robert, may I interrupt? You wouldn't dream, of course, of slipping back into the country at all, would you?
Well, there is going to be a trial case. There'll be no slipping in. We'll come in quite openly. When we come in, we'll come in at London Airport, and Caroline will most probably announce and say that
you're coming
Johnny Walker and Robbie Dale will be arriving at London Airport, or one of us will be arriving at London Airport on flight.
Now, supposing, you get taken seriously ill, what happens then?
That, again, is another major problem. We've thought about this, too, if someone was perhaps taken with appendicitis. The only answer would be to call out for help from England, and perhaps for the very good service of the Walton or Clacton lifeboat to come out and help out. And then, of course, the chap who's sick and taken ashore to hospital would be in trouble, but he would be prosecuted.
Do you think you really will want to come back to England, though?
Oh, most definitely, but as a free man.
Robbie Dale, bon voyage, and thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, John.
As midnight approached, millions of people were wondering if Caroline would keep its promise and stay on the air defying the government. At midnight, everyone knew the answer. Robbie Dale and Johnny Walker announced over the air that Caroline would continue.
This is your radio station. This is Radio Caroline. It is now 12 midnight. Radio Caroline would like to extend its thanks to Mr. Harold Wilson and his Labour government for at last, after over 3.5 years of broadcasting, recognizing this station's legality. It's right to be here It's right to be broadcasting to Great Britain and the continent. It's right to give the music and service to the peoples of Europe, which we have been doing since Easter Sunday 1964. And we in turn recognize your right as our listener to have freedom of choice in your radio entertainment, and of course that Radio Caroline belongs to you. It is your radio station, even though it costs you nothing. And as we enter this new phase in our broadcasting history, you naturally have our assurance that we intend to stay on the air because we belong to you and we love you. Caroline, continue.
Caroline remained on the air after the Marine Offences Bill for 7 months, surviving entirely from paid record plugs from now defunct record companies. Large debts to the offshore tender and supply company, which was a part of the Weiswiller Tug Company in Holland, grew, and the company refused to let the account grow any further. On Friday afternoon, March the 1st, 1968, a meeting was held in the company's offices. It was decided to tow the ships back to Amsterdam. Here is Andy Archer to tell what happened.
On the 3rd of March 1968 at 2 o'clock, I finished the Carl Mitchell show and wished the listeners good night and hope they'd join us again at 5:30 for the Roger Day show. Johnny Walker and I then went to the mess to drink some coffee, and we all retired to bed at about 4 o'clock. Just 1 hour later, the duty engineer Ray Glenister switched on the transmitter and the tape machine to play music until Roger Day arrived at 5:30. Before this could happen, the tug Titan pulled alongside, and at 5:19 the captain of the tug walked into Studio 1 and told Ray to switch off the music because we were being towed back to Holland. Ray obeyed and then awoke Johnny Walker, the senior disc jockey at the time. Johnny had 15 minutes to clear the records and cassettes out of the studio before they were locked up. At 7:30 we started the trip back to Holland, and all the DJs were now up and wondering if this was the end. The weather was very bad, with visibility no more than 800 yards, and we had no hope to get a signal to England to warn our boss Philip Solomon. We had nothing to do on the journey except eat, sleep and play cards. Throughout the afternoon we tuned into the BBC and to Radio Veronica, but there was no mention that we were being towed to Holland, nor that we were off the air. We arrived in Amsterdam at 5 a.m. on the 4th of March. Roger and I went to the office, and after a hectic cat-and-mouse game with the press, we went to the airport and went our separate ways. The Caroline North ship arrived in Amsterdam on the 19th of March, and both ships were brought to the Houthaven, and there they stayed for more than 5 years. It seemed at the time that Caroline would never go on the air again.